and gentlemen, keep the applause going, Benji Marshall. Hear that applause?
How good is it?
Well, the game's greatest entertainers there. Benji, we thought we'd get you on to have a chat about your 305-game career, and of course we can't go right through it because we'll be here till midnight, but just pick sort of moments. And I suppose kicking off with 2003 when you burst onto the scene.
Yeah.
You're about 70 kilos. And,
yeah, 74.
Mate, unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen a player who played with such joy as you did in those days. No pressure, no expectation. Don't worry about winning and losing, just get out there and go.
Yeah, and that's how it was. You know, back then I was still at school. I went to school Monday to Thursday and then flew to Sydney Thursday night, trained with the team for one day, played on the weekend and went back to school.
Unbelievable.
So you can imagine, I was just thinking about how good is this? I go to school and during the week and playing first grade NRL on the weekend.
Yourself, you just had, you know, throughout your career, particularly as early, the ability to do the freakish that people just love to watch. You know, and people expected it of you. Did that weigh on you at times through your career?
I probably didn't understand how much the expectation was, you know, because I obviously started off my career doing a lot of those things, steps, flick passes and chips and chases and stuff, and it's sort of become the normal that people just expected that, and I played that way. Yeah. And I probably, you know, I didn't understand the part of football that I understand now about building pressure and controlling a game and understanding, like, instead of, if we were winning by 4, I'd want to win by 10.
You're right.
Instead of kick it to touch and defend the next set, that sort of mentality. So, yeah, I think it affected me the way I played in terms of not having control on the result when I was younger.
You're right.
Whereas now I probably understand that part of the game a lot more.
To have longevity like you have and to have success, that's formative. You've got to have a good coach. You had a genius, Tim Sheens. How did... You know, you said, you know, you're talking about, you know, not worrying about owning the result. How did Tim coach you specifically?
I think I was really lucky that I had Tim as my first coach because, you know, the things that I was doing when I was at school, a lot of people thought it was weird and different and awkward, and Tim embraced it and coached me into a style where as long as I practiced it at training, then I could do it on the field. So if he saw me do it at training, I had the right to do it on the field. And I think him embracing that style and letting me play the way that I played, if it was any other coach, I don't know if I would have had the same success that I had.
Yeah. He was so proud of you blokes. I remember bumping, you know, Sheens one of those blokes that he's a rugby league historian, he's a tragic. You know, you bump him and you say, how you going, Tim? And he'll talk to you for 2 hours. But I remember in 2004 bumping him and he was so excited about this young side he was bringing through and what he was creating. And I remember going to watch a training session about halfway through 2005. He said, you've got to come and watch us train. And Benji, I've never seen anything like it. It was like the perfect football. Skill, speed, mate, everyone was synchronised. And, of course, you're going to win the competition that year. How do you look back on that side and that premiership winning year? Oh,
it's one of the best times of my life. And I suppose the way we were coached, you know, it was free to play how we played. But what we did do, and no one really thought about, is we practiced a lot of the basics. So 2-on-1 passing, 3-on-2s, drawing and passing, and just understanding all the basics of, you know, everyone sees the result of the try, but no one sees the lead up and what happens with the hands. And I thought some of the play that we had that year was a result of not only skill, but we practiced those things throughout the whole year. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, today's footy, that gets a little bit lost in terms of people knowing and having those basic skills.
It was amazing watching you blokes. You know, like Tim played the long game with you from 2003, 2004 onwards. Like he just kept training you blokes, and you blokes were getting some flogging sometimes against, you know, the good times like the Bulldogs, but he knew he was building somewhere. Yourself personally, Benji, after that 2005 season, and you exploded onto the scene. At the end of that year, it was like Benji Mania. You were the face of the game. In fact, you were one of the prominent people in Australian sport. How dramatically did it change your life?
Oh, yeah. I still pinch myself because I didn't really understand how big it was, because to me it was just playing footy, and I didn't understand until I saw how much it meant to all our fans and just to the people who watched the game and appreciated what I did. It was pretty overwhelming, and my life actually went from, you know, walking down the street, no one really knowing, to all of a sudden getting stopped for photos, go to the supermarket and people wanting to talk and getting free stuff, and how good's free stuff, and
that's good.
You know what I mean? Like, it just went crazy. Yeah. And you know, and to be fair, it probably had a little bit of a detriment on the way I played, because everything was just, you know, my whole upbringing, I struggled and, you know, had to do things tough, and then all of a sudden everything was happening for me like it was easy. Yeah. And that probably didn't help me. footy-wise.
And that sort of adulation sometimes, I've seen it with certain people and players, like that sort of adulation brings problems as well, because people are extreme. You know, you go out in public, Benji, I imagine there's people who absolutely love you, but there's other people who just want to give it to you. Did that wear you down a little bit?
Yeah, because I didn't understand, you know, why people would want to be like that, because I'd never really seen that. You know, and for me, I just felt like I was just loving life and enjoying it, and then with that, I suppose notoriety became a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure. And looking back now, I didn't realise at the time how much pressure I was actually feeling and under, and you know, to be who people wanted me to be, not actually what I was, you know. And I was playing this free-flowing football that everyone loved and enjoyed, but that also got us into trouble sometimes, because it wasn't so much driven about what was going to be best for the team. It was just, you know, try and score on every play.
Highs and lows, the shoulder injuries after, you know, that unbelievable period. What the shoulder? Can you describe what actually the problem was with the shoulders?
Well, I had 5 shoulder reconstructions. I had 1 on my left and then 4 on my right. And 2008, the surgeon pretty much said to me, if you do it again, you're going to have to retire. And that was sort of the breaking point for me, because I went back to New Zealand and I said to my dad, look, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit. The ups and downs of footy is just, you know, you come back from one shoulder injury and you feel great, then just brought straight back down. And you know, a lot of footy players who have been through the toughness of having an injury and feeling isolated from the team will understand it's a dark, dark place.
Absolutely it is.
And I felt that darkness in 2008, and my dad actually convinced me and said, look, go back, give it one more go. If it happens again, I'll let you retire. And thankfully, look, playing 300 games, this is one of the reasons why I'm so proud, because those shoulder injuries were pretty serious.
Yeah. Good season, 2008 as well. You win the World Cup with New Zealand. Yeah. Unbelievable. Where does that sit, you know, in terms, say, of the Tigers win in 2005?
Yeah, definitely right up there. You know, playing for your country, for me, is the biggest achievement in rugby league. And to do it at a World Cup, we were massive underdogs and no one really gave us a chance. And to do it with that bunch of guys, you know, definitely one of the proudest moments I've ever had. And the reaction from the public of New Zealand was just unbelievable and crazy. And obviously rugby union's the main sport there. You know, to have that support from people who are rugby union tragics, seeing the rugby league community happy.
Just saw the image there, and Steve Kearney's been congratulated. Of course, Wayne Bennett come on as co-coach or assistant coach to Steve Kearney. We know what Steve brought for you guys. What did Wayne bring? What did he bring to that successful side?
A lot of belief, a lot of calmness. I think he instilled in the players that we were good enough to win it, and he gave us a simple plan that we executed, and that simpleness of the plan just allowed everyone to do their job and play the way we played. And that's probably the freest that I've felt in a Kiwi jumper, 2008.
The Haka, Benji, like one of the most iconic images and traditions in sport. What does, when you perform the Haka, what does it give you?
Well, I've grown up my whole life doing the Haka, and you know, we have different ones for whatever area you're from in New Zealand, but to do it representing your country, you know, it's just one of the best feelings you could ever have in sport. You know, representing your people, your country, and your family. And for me, that's the most important thing, is my family get a massive kick out of me doing the Haka. And it's just special.
Recently, when you played Tonga in that test match, they cut to you and they're doing the New Zealand national anthem. You're in tears, Benji.
Yeah.
And for a bloke that's done so much in his career, a lot of us were surprised by that. What took you there?
Well, I think just the exile that I'd had from the international arena for a long time, and not really expecting that I'd be back there. And it just meant so much to me. And I thought about my family. Obviously, I've got a son now, so the opportunity that he got to see me wear the New Zealand jumper was a dream that I had since becoming a father, and I thought that wasn't going to happen. And not only that, my grandfather passed away last year. And you just think of your family when you're standing there, probably playing for any country, and you're singing your national anthem. You think of the people you're representing, and for me, that was my family, and then obviously the whole country. So, special moment.
I was watching the All Blacks last night beat the Wallabies. Another full storm for us. Surprise, surprise. But I thought of you. I mean, in 2014, seemingly out of the blue, you went back to New Zealand and to play rugby union with the Auckland.
Do you have to remind me?
I'm sorry. I just want to ask you, you talk about pressure all the time. What's it like for you, with such a high profile, to go back to New Zealand and play the national sport?
Yeah, it was weird. That's probably the most lost I've ever felt in my whole career.
Really?
A new sport, unknown, having to leave the Tigers, which I didn't really want to do. And then just the expectation of when I got there, how much was weighed upon me that I had to be a certain expectation. And then when I didn't meet that expectation, everyone saw it as a failure. But for me, it got me out of my comfort zone of the Tigers, where I probably got a little bit tired and a little bit cocky, and I probably needed to move on to understand that where I was at, And sometimes you can get complacent, and I thought that rugby union experiment taught me a lot about gratitude and just sometimes you don't know what you got until it's gone, and I wanted to be back at the Tigers so much through a lot of that.
And you came back the long way. You came back Dragons and the Broncos. You had successful periods there. Then you end up back at the Tigers.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look at some of your trick shots over the years, Benji, righto? And I want to ask you some of these. Have you got a personal favourite? I mean, there's so many. You've brought so many highlights.
This one's probably a little bit that everyone talks about a lot. Who has the audacity to pull off a flick pass in a grand final. And the funny thing is, if you go to New Zealand, you see a lot of kids practicing that. And
this is phenomenal. This
is one of my favourites. I probably could have passed it normally. But that's just the mindset that I was in back then, and the confidence to be able to do these things. And looking back, I love it.
Yeah.
It's a big part of my DNA and of what I am and what I was able to achieve. And I got players I play with now who say, "Oh man, I used to love watching you when I was at primary school." You know what I mean? But for me, that just reinforces to be 34, still playing at the highest level. I'm really proud of that achievement, Matty, and to be back at the Tigers, it's even more special.
I wanted to show you those because, not just because they're great to watch, but I want to talk about Benji 2019 now and the player you've become. You're a leader now, you're an organiser. You beat a guy with your smarts rather than your feet. How difficult was it for you to let go of that Benji, the one we'd just seen?
Yeah, pretty hard, and I probably didn't let go of it until I went to Brisbane and teamed up with Wayne and understood that I don't have to be that Benji and I can't be that Benji, but I didn't understand that until I actually thought about it, and I didn't want to let go of those things.
Yeah.
And then once I understood that I could influence the game more with what I was doing upstairs, and people started talking about it and saying, "Man, it's unbelievable, you're doing this and that by just your game control." It took me a while to understand that can have more influence on your team. And I really feel like I've got a good balance now of the both of them. And really lucky, like I said, to still be playing.
Your old mate Robbie's going to go out this year, hopefully get on the park before the end of the year.
Hope so, yeah.
You're going to go around again in 2020.
Am I?
That's what we hear. If you feel good this time of the year, I mean, if you win in there and you're in the 8, you feel good?
I feel
Are you a chance
good.
going 2021?
Yeah, I'm a chance. I feel really good within my body, but there's a lot of things you have to weigh up. Obviously, we're not in a great position salary cap at the Tigers, so not that I'm going to take up that much of it if I do play. So
Don't say that.
Yeah, but look, I feel good enough. But I've probably got a couple of weeks where I'm going to have to make a serious decision and decide. But the way I'm feeling, I feel like I could go around again for sure.
Benji, thanks for coming in, and mate, and thank you for mate, the way you've sold the game over the years, but mate, the entertainment you brought everyone.
Mate.
Isn't that
Cheers.
true? Eh? Fantastic, mate. Appreciate it, Benji.